welcome to Real Talk with Sesta. Today we have a special guest, Vince Castoro from Capital Partners Mortgage. How you doing, Vince?
I'm great, Andrew. I'm excited. I'm excited to get the word out about Hometown Heroes.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. I know you're really busy, and sorry to take you away from all that paperwork that you have. I'm sure you hate that.
Yeah.
But we were talking about this Florida Hometown Heroes program and event a couple of weeks ago, and I think both of us were kind of bewildered that not so many people really knew about this program. And being that I have a background in law enforcement, your son works in law enforcement, we kind of wanted to just get the word out. So I'm so glad that you agreed to come on to this podcast and so we can get this word out there to all these people, not only law enforcement, but this list of so many eligible people that we have that may qualify. So first, just tell us a little bit about yourself, Vince.
So let's see. I've been lending here on the Treasure Coast locally for 31 years. So we are a direct
Wow.
lender. We originate, process, underwrite, and close all loans. We've been helping first responders, police officers, teachers, firefighters for over 30 years, and I'm excited to let so many of them know about these benefits. Our job is to kind of spread the word, right?
Absolutely.
So, where you get your information from is more critical or as critical as what the information being presented. So I'm glad you had me on. I want to make sure the people watching get accurate information, and I think we're going to find a lot of them surprised that homeownership is not as hard as they make it out to be.
Absolutely, especially with this program. That's definitely for sure. So let's get right into it, Vince. Give us a little bit of a summary of what is Florida Hometown Heroes.
So the Florida Hometown Heroes program was initiated by the governor several months ago, which basically was a mandate to help our first responders get into a home where they typically would not be able to. So the Hometown Heroes program at its basics provides up to 5% of the sales price in the form of a grant to a first responder that can be used towards down payment and closing costs. So
Okay.
effectually, a $400,000 house, you can get a grant up to $20,000. $300,000 house, you'd get $15,000. So effectually, you're taking the requirement of having all this money off the table. So it's
Right.
making people where they're concerned they don't have the down payment. People think they need 5%, 10%, 20%. This grant is covering every nickel that they would typically need to purchase a home.
Wow, that's amazing. Definitely is. So we were talking about that earlier, Vince. So a lot of the times when we come across people that are looking to rent, one of the reasons why they do rent or continue to rent is because they don't have the money to put down. So let's talk about that a little bit. We had talked some numbers before, but what's that magic number for a person that's out there paying X amount of rent for them to be able to buy a home? Let's do like a comparison.
Yeah, and I think, especially in our market, Andrew, the rents are ridiculous. Interestingly enough, a $300,000 mortgage payment is equivalent to $2,200 in rent. So
Okay.
if you're paying $2,200 in rent, you can likely afford a $300,000 loan amount. A $350,000 loan amount you would qualify is equivalent to about $2,600 in rent.
Right.
So
So
to
which
cut,
really hits the mark what renters are paying right now to rent a house in Port St. Lucie. The market is between 2,000 to 2,600 on the average. So what you're saying is those people could afford to buy a home up to 300, 325,000, and still typically pay just about the same.
yeah, I think a couple of key points to that, Andrew, is one, everyone's got a fear of the interest rate environment, and I get that. But although we're not in a 3.5% market, we're no longer in a 7% market. Rates are down in the fives. So
Wow.
home ownership is becoming more and more affordable. A lot of our first time home buyers and the entire market, they pump the brakes. We're not sure what's going on. So the
Right.
market has corrected itself. Rates are in the mid fives. So, that $350,000 house is $2,500 a month, probably equivalent to what they're paying now.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So with this program, they're using it for not only the down payment but closing costs as well. Is that correct?
Typically, yeah, with the size of the grant, if you're getting 5% of the sales price, and an important thing here at Capital Partners Mortgage, no firefighter, first responder, teacher, any frontline worker is ever going to pay any origination fees with us anyway. So
Correct.
your 5% grant will certainly cover your down payment requirements and most, if not all, of the costs.
Awesome. That's awesome. Perfect. So let's talk about this because I think it's really a good time of year to speak about, people that are doing their taxes and tax returns are going hopefully getting back a tax refund. As far as tax refund, is that a source of funds that they can use toward a purchase?
Great question, Andrew. Appreciate that. Yeah, 100%. So, a lot of us, you, I, we're preparing our tax returns and hoping to get a refund. And by all means, a tax refund is an acceptable source of funds for cash to close, it's important we're going to focus on Hometown Heroes, I'm going to touch base on some of the basic guidelines in a minute. I think everyone should realize if you don't hit every guideline, and there's not a lot, but there are additional options for you where if you're not getting down payment assistance, your tax refund can be used to cover your down payment, seller paid closing costs in certain examples. I think our obligation to our community is to not only introduce programs like this, but it's also to get people on the path of home ownership. Not everyone's
Absolutely.
ready to buy a house today. And, we could touch base a little bit on that. But yeah, by all means, tax refunds are certainly acceptable.
Absolutely. All right, so let's get into some of those basic guidelines, Vince, if you don't mind.
So yeah, so some of the nuts and bolts of this, guys, and there are certain limitations that I can go to. Just ask me a question in the comments section, and Andrew will provide you my email. But let's just
Absolutely.
touch base on the basics. Basic number one, this has to be a primary residence. This program's not available for second homes, vacation homes, or investment properties.
I'm
You
glad you
have
just
to be.
mentioned that.
Go
Not to
ahead.
cut you off, but Justin Wells just asked that question. Can it be used for investment property? So, Justin, here's the answer. He's going to go over it right
There
now.
you go, Justin. So owner-occupied primary residences. Now, I want to touch base on the requirement of being a first-time home buyer. I am absolutely amazed, and shame on me, but the general public doesn't realize that a first-time home buyer is not someone who is defined by us by simply someone who has not owned a home in the last 3 years. So the Hometown Hero program doesn't have to be your first house. It just has to be you. As long as you haven't owned a house in the last 3 years, you are, for all intents and purposes, for this program and any other program, a first-time home buyer. So I
Awesome.
think
Awesome.
that's important. I should
Okay.
also note that veterans are exempt from that requirement. So if a veteran's leaving a house, he doesn't have to wait 3 years. They're eligible instantly. Um,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, and there's certain provisions for this with vets. Um, there are income limitations. Now, the best part about the Hometown Heroes program is, although it's not the only down payment assistance program, it is by far the program that allows for the highest income levels. So, comparatively, a regular down payment state issued program, typically your maximum income requirements are 50, 60, $70,000. With the Hometown Heroes program, you can make up to $125,000 and still
Wow.
be eligible for this program. Another very unique part about this program, A lot of times we'll have nurses that are married to cops or firemen that are married to teachers. Well, with this particular program, we don't have to use the entire household income. We can use one applicant or the other to ensure that we do not exceed the income limitations.
Wow.
So, very unique aspects. And another
Absolutely.
example, because a lot of our police officers and law enforcement agents have a lot of overtime.
Yeah.
So the neat part about this is we as a direct lender can use our discretion and extrapolate overtime, extrapolate bonuses, extrapolate shift differentials. For those of you who are first responders know exactly what that is, to again help you meet the income requirement. So
Wow.
a lot of neat benefits to this program that are very unique. The program does have purchase price limitations. Typically in our area, that's going to be around 500,000. Each area is a
Okay.
little specific, zip code specific, but if you're going to use a rule of thumb, it's going to be around 500,000.
Okay.
And last but not least, the credit score requirements are 640. So
640. Okay.
correct, which is, and again, the path to home ownership in talking about credit and credit scores and everyone hemming and hawing and in a panic about credit scores. There's a couple of things that I think are important that we need to get the word out. One, mortgages are pass fail. Not everything is based on whether you have a 741 or a 739 or a 585. Although the Hometown Heroes program does have a 640 credit score requirement, if you're not eligible that, you could still get into a house with as little as 3% with as low as a credit score of 580. So my suggestion to you people listening out there is rip the Band-Aid. And when I say rip the Band-Aid, you may think your credit is not up to par, but you certainly are likely not to be aware of what your mortgage credit score is. Your mortgage credit score is different than what you see on, you know,
Credit
Credit
Karma
Karma.
and some of that stuff. Yeah. We hear
Yeah,
that all
so
the
if you
time. We hear that all
so
the
whether
time.
it's this program or maybe you're just over the minimum credit score requirement, the point is you need to rip the Band-Aid. And
Right.
if you're worried about your credit, then we offer free rescoring, free credit analysis. If you're not ready now, we'll get you ready in 90 days. And not everyone's ready
Absolutely.
to move today. So,
Right.
getting on the path to home ownership, I think is a lot what
S-
these type of programs are all about.
Starting that process. Absolutely. Vince, Justin has another question on the income. Is that before tax or after tax income?
Excellent question. So we always use gross incomes for qualifying mortgage applicants. It's always gross
Okay.
income. And keep in mind, those of you who are self-employed and maybe not specific to the Hometown Hero program, we use net income from your returns after your expenses. So, um, doing this for 31 years, having my underwriting designation to my self-employed clients, please get us your financials. We will whip through them in an hour. It's
Okay.
not as hard as you think.
Good. Thank you for that. And thank you for that question, Justin. Keep those questions coming because this is kind of, a way of us finding out what the points are of this program and other programs. And the one thing I always say about Vince is the guy is a wealth of knowledge. I mean, he's been doing it so long that he's probably got a PhD in hard knocks. But, keep those questions going, and we appreciate that. And
Yeah, and
just
I
keep them
wanted to
coming.
touch base, if I can. I wanted to touch base more on the employment requirements. A lot of
Absolutely. Go ahead.
our general public don't realize is that there are over 125 acceptable employment for this program, which means you don't have to be just a firefighter. You can be an EMT. If you have any type of medical certification, we did a Hometown Heroes loan for a massage therapist last month. So if you have any type of medical certification, if EMTs, firefighters, anyone who's considered a frontline worker, but there are, we talked about 911 dispatchers.
Yeah.
So um, And I
Yes,
think it's
school
important that
teachers, social workers, psychologists, child care
correct.
operators. I mean, the list is pretty extensive.
And I want to get on record with something, Andrew, because it's bothered me. When I did my first loan in 1991, it was for a Morton County sheriff, and that officer, a deputy with Morton County, that deputy made $21,000 annually, and
Wow.
I was appalled. I was taken back, and I can tell you, I'm still appalled. And what we pay our teachers is just unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. And the reason why I bring this up is teachers are available for this program. Aides are available for this program. Pretty much anyone with any type of education certification is eligible for this program. So, we'd love to see more teachers plant more roots in our community and stay. So if you're a
Absolutely.
teacher out there, please give us a call.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I could attest to that, Vince. In 1988, when I started working at the sheriff's department, my pay was $900 a month. A
Okay.
month. So
It's
if that
it's
tells you anything,
criminal.
but yeah,
It's
definitely,
criminal.
definitely. I
And
mean, they
when you have family in law enforcement, and I have family in law enforcement, and I have friends and families and EMTs and firefighters, and you have these 20, 30-year relationships. And if we don't take the time to let this group know of every benefit that's available to them, then shame on us. You know,
absolutely.
I was lucky enough where Assistant Chief Del Toro at PSLPD, invited us to talk, and we were very honored to do that. And what came across to me is these sheriff offices, police departments, they want the firefighters, you lieutenants out there. I know that in your heart, you want your officers, your employees, your firefighters, you want them to know every benefit that's available to them, and to
Absolutely.
have them take advantage of it, because it does take a special person to help a complete stranger in their time of need. and
Absolutely.
and we need to reward those people.
And especially all these frontline workers over the last couple of years. I mean,
Right.
kudos to every one of them. So I'm
Right.
so glad that the governor pushed for something like this, and and that's why I'm, ever since we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago and tried to put this together, I've been so excited about getting this word out. So with that being said, somebody asked Alex, is the list going to be available online? And yes, the recorded version of this podcast is going to be posted on Facebook, YouTube. We'll have all the links that you can go to apply for the application or see if you're qualified. A list to the front the employment list of who's qualified. We'll have all that information in there, so you can click. And then at the end of this, we're going to also post Vince's contact information, my contact information, and again, if you yourself can't benefit from this program and know somebody that does, please share this information, share this podcast with them, because I mean, I don't know. A good question for you, Vince. How long is this going to last? Do we know?
Well, the neat part about this is, the maximum amount is 25,000 per transaction. And I should also mention that the grant is in the form of an interest-free loan. There are no payments due on this. The only time that this loan gets repaid is when the house transfers. So it's important to know that. And then I think the second part of that, Andrew, is you're exactly right, is you probably know somebody, someone who's in your squad room, someone who's in your firehouse, someone who's, a family member that it just doesn't know about this program. I can tell you, you sharing that and them closing on a house, you know,
Absolutely.
we spoke recently at the PSLPD, and I was absolutely blown away. Out of 130 officers, 2 officers in the entire 3 shifts knew anything about the Hometown Hero program.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad we're able to put that on. And again, I appreciate you taking the time this evening to talk about it. Laura Jean has a question. She says, if you make $34,000 a year, would you qualify?
Yes, 100%. There's no minimum income. The only maximum is about 125,000 in our area.
And it would just have the debt to income ratio still has to.
Correct. You got to look at your debt structure, see how far we can stretch the 3,400, and that'll determine the amount of house you can afford.
Absolutely. Okay. And let me see any other questions out there. Okay. So Vince, let's talk about something that a lot of people get a little worried about. We get a lot of people that when we speak to them, when we say, well, we want you to get pre-qualified, the first stop sign that we get is, I really don't want to pull my credit because, I don't want to ding my credit. Can we talk about that a little bit? I know it's not specific to this program, but in general.
Well, and I agree. Someone like myself, Andrew, I mean, I've probably looked at 100,000 credit points. I actually predate credit scoring. That's how old I am. But the reality is again, mortgages are pass fail. But what's really important to know is that when you're applying for a home loan and a mortgage credit is pulled, this will have zero effect on your mortgage credit score. Now, if you were to, because people get worried about inquiries, right? They think it drives the score. Now, here's what you shouldn't do. If you want to see if you're pre-qualified for a home loan, that's great. But if next week you go to JCPenney's and apply for a credit card and then go to the car dealership and then somewhere else and have your credit pulled, that will affect your consumer credit score. And again, with mortgage credit scores, I say pass fail simply for this. So many people get hung up on credit scores, Andrew. Every discount that any lender could possibly give you, similar to, sign and drive, no payments for 5 years, every single discount comes to an absolute screeching halt. Sit down, buckle up at 740 anyway. There is no difference between, and from a rate standpoint, the difference between 680 and 700 is nominal. Between 700 and 740 is nominal. I'm talking maybe 1/8 of 1%. It's so nominal that people get so hung up on it. And the other thing I think is funny is, we have a lot of affluent clients and, their mortgage credit score is different than their consumer credit score. And it comes in at 793. And they want to tell me, well, their credit score is over 800. And I explain to them every discount you could possibly get stops at 740. But, they want to let me know they have
we had that just a couple of weeks ago. I remember us talking about that, which is funny. But thanks for sharing that, Vince. Absolutely. Anybody else have any questions? Again, feel free to post them in the chat and in the comments, and we'll get your answer. Okay, so we've talked about the basics. We've talked about credit scores, taxes, who's eligible. We've talked about the max $500,000, $125,000 income, 640 credit score. Anything else that we can put out there, Vince, that people are going to need to know about
I think that, these grants are always in conjunction with one of three loan types, either a conventional loan, an FHA loan, or a VA loan. So the grant is just a vehicle to get you the down payment and the closing costs, and the program, depending on which one you qualify. So just so everyone knows, yes, you can do a conventional loan with this program, a VA loan with this program, an FHA loan with this program. They're really available for every type of loan program. They're just a grant that provides you the vehicle if you need the cash.
Absolutely.
And again, it's not repayable unless you sell the house and there's no payments on it. And the other thing that I think is important is, we have a lot of first responders out there and maybe they don't need the program. Well, you don't have to have the program to buy a house.
Right.
But it's certainly helping a lot of us.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I don't see any other question, Vince, and I really appreciate your time and respect the fact that you've got some applications on your desk we just spoke about that you got to get back to. So can you tell everybody, and again, I'm going to put this in the description, but how do they get a hold of you, Vince?
Oh, sure. So obviously the best way to get a hold of me is going to be the fastest way, I should say, to get a hold of me is going to be via email. Now, by all means, call my cell. I'm at 772-285-6502. My email address, vcastoro, CASTORO @cp-mtg.com. And, once you get in touch with me, we'll send you a link to, a lot of my millennials, Andrew, they don't want to talk to me. They want to know if I have an app for that.
Absolutely. And that app is absolutely amazing that you
get
guys
them a
have.
link to the app.
Absolutely. Like I said, I'll put all of that in the description or in the comments section and in the description on YouTube, so that you could just click the link. Another question Alex has is, Vince, how long does it take to get qualified for this program?
So, excellent question. Typically with us, we work a little differently than most lenders in that, a lot of lenders have you do an online loan app, or they jot your information down and you have a pre-approval and they send you on your way. When you're a local lender for 31 years and you have a track record with most of the local real estate community, we're going to fully underwrite your file, pay stubs, and it's not a lot. It's pay stubs, W-2s, bank statements, photo ID. So as fast as you can get that uploaded, your typical turn times are 24 to 48 hours.
Nice.
A lot of them are same day.
Nice.
But,
and you
with
could
us,
easily, with your app, you could even upload documents through your app, right? Your online
you
app?
you can literally take a picture of it, upload it to us right then and there. And it's, we'll talk, we'll do one on the app, but
yeah, we're going to have to talk about that all in itself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's just super convenient and just lightning fast.
Yep. Absolutely.
Because some of you will call me, I'll call you back and you don't recognize my number. And when you don't recognize my number, you don't pick up the phone.
Absolutely. All right. So thanks again, Vince. If there's no other questions, we're going to end this podcast. We're going to try to do these podcasts every couple of weeks. I think we talked about getting Vince on here maybe the second and the fourth Thursday of each month, because there's just so much information. And having me on the real estate end and Vince on the mortgage end, that's most of the battle. So we're going to try to bring some of these educational type podcasts to you. We're going to have questions and answers. So if you guys have any topics that you'd like us to cover or any questions that you want us to get a little bit deeper, we're going to talk about, Vince, that other program with the veterans we spoke about just before in the green room, the military
on the move. Yeah.
Military on the move.
Yeah,
so we'll
and
get
again,
into
a lot
that.
of veterans and a lot of these first responders are likely eligible for discounts related to real estate costs. They're also eligible for discounts with closing costs, with closing fees, and I think the key component, I think you hit the nail on the head, Andrew. Between the both of us, we're doing this 50, 60 years. We are your Google.
Absolutely.
You don't have to look any of this stuff up. Just text, call us, or email. You'll get an accurate answer quick.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that, and I appreciate your time. Thanks for everybody that shared this podcast, that commented, and were part of the comments and questions. We love that, and we'll see you again in a couple weeks. Thanks a lot.
And thank you everyone here for your service. We appreciate it. We appreciate it every day.
Absolutely. Amen.
Thanks, Andrew.
Have a good one. All right, buddy.
Okay.